Have you ever actually stopped to wonder if the documents that govern our entire lives, the deeds, the titles, the legal filings, are actually real? Or what if they're just a highly orchestrated performance that we've all been completely conditioned to believe in? Well, in today's Explainer, we're diving straight into a mind-bending philosophical true crime narrative that's honestly going to make you question the very ground you stand on. We're unpacking a staggering case of systemic real estate fraud in Echo Park, Los Angeles, and seeing exactly how a specific group allegedly manipulated the entire legal system to literally steal homes right out from under people.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want to kick things off with a truly haunting quote from the source text, because it sets the perfect stage for everything we're about to unpack. It says, "The lie is not error. It is the operating condition that keeps the planned corruption running." Just let that sink in for a second. This tells us right out of the gate that what happened here wasn't just some series of innocent clerical mistakes. There were no accidents. As the documents clearly outline, this systemic real estate fraud was a meticulously engineered machine. It was a system built specifically to extract value by completely manipulating the truth. Now, to really grasp how they managed to pull this off, we need to look at it through the lens of the French critical theorist Jean Baudrillard and his really fascinating concept of the simulacrum. So, in philosophy, a simulacrum is basically a copy without an original. But in the context of this real estate syndicate, it means they absolutely weaponized a paper reality. Think about it. They forged deeds, they filed completely fake violation notices, and they stood up these ghost entities. Basically, they performed institutional power. And here is the truly terrifying part. Our courts, our institutions, they're actually designed to accept this pristine fake paperwork as the absolute truth. They will accept the paper over the physical, flesh and blood reality on the ground every single time.
But hey, let's ground all this high-level French critical theory in the dirt for a second. Take a look at this real property report for 1958 Avon Street. Because behind the philosophy, right? Behind the simulacrum and all these incredibly complex legal maneuverings, we have to remember we are dealing with physical homes. We're talking about actual families and actual neighbors in Echo Park. These aren't just abstract data points on some spreadsheet. They are real properties that were systematically targeted by what the records describe as a highly coordinated syndicate.
Section 1. The Prototype, 1955 Park Drive.
The sources reveal that 1955 Park Drive wasn't just some random house up on a hill. No, it was the blueprint. This was the original model where the perpetrators perfected their tactics before exposing the whole hill and unleashing it on the rest of the neighborhood. So how did this blueprint actually work in practice? Well, it was a brutal physical mechanism. Step 1, sabotage the physical structure itself. The sources describe intentional damage to the foundational caissons that literally hold up these hillside homes, tactics that were originally inspired by underground manuals like the Monkey Wrencher's Guide. Step 2, this structural sabotage instantaneously devalues the property, which plunges the homeowner into an absolute crisis. And then Step 3, they use that extreme financial duress to force the owner into a sale. They manufactured the disaster from scratch and then just swooped in to quote-unquote rescue the asset at a fraction of its true worth.
Section 2. The rhizome expands. Let's move to this and see exactly how this builds. Because once that 1955 Park Drive model proved successful, the whole operation expanded horizontally. And this brings us right to a brilliant philosophical concept from Gilles Deleuze, the rhizome. Now, think of a rhizome kind of like the root system of a weed. It's a horizontal, infinite web of interconnected nodes with no clear center at all. And the sources describe this fraud network exactly like this. It's not your standard top-down corporate hierarchy where you can just easily take the whole thing down by arresting the CEO. Nope. It's a completely decentralized, chaotic maze of shell LLCs, overlapping actors, and totally fake addresses. And this exact structure is precisely what makes the fraud so incredibly difficult for law enforcement to actually fight.
When we visually map out this interconnected web of targeted properties, we can see exactly how the prototype expanded and claimed its next victims. Look at 1968 Avon. That property was hidden behind a shell company, 1968 Avon LLC, specifically to divert funds. Then at 1410 Ewing, they falsified adverse possession and totally bogus shell conservancy claims. And over at 1958 Avon, the property was linked to a completely invented, fake address, 1956 Park Drive. Think about how wild that is. The perpetrators literally tried to renumber the map of Los Angeles without any Bureau of Engineering approval, all just to create this massive fog of confusion.
And when we compare this paper reality right up against the ground reality, the contrast is honestly jarring. On paper, to a judge or a city clerk, everything looked like perfectly pristine institutional paperwork.
They used things like phantom 401ks and incredibly strategic bad faith bankruptcies just to stall foreclosure sales and shield their assets. But the ground reality? Man, that was raw and it was violent. We are talking about street-level sabotage, completely staged accidents, and literally deploying aggressive squatters to terrorize the legitimate owners.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just the sheer terrifying scale of that ground reality. 60 feet. The source material details this insane anecdote where the syndicate literally brought in a 60-foot pile driver. They allegedly lied straight to the city to get it up there, parked it totally sideways during inspections just to hide it, and then used it to literally lift a victim's house. I mean, lifting the stilts so the home was floating in midair. And the absolute most shocking part of this whole shebang? They did this while the victims were still inside the house. So yeah, this wasn't just fraud anymore, this was straight up physical endangerment.
Section 3. Violence disguised as bureaucracy.
But here's the thing. A fake reality always has vulnerabilities. Let's look at the specific glitches in their paperwork that actually started to unravel the entire scheme. The sources highlight fire violations that were dated before property transfers even occurred. Let that sink in. That means they were forging mail to arrive before they even owned the property just to prove bad faith against the owners. Absolute madness. We also see court dismissals achieved via phantom telephonic appearances, where defense attorneys wouldn't even bother to show up to the call. There were serial bankruptcies filed purely to stall for time. They even went so far as to completely erase county deeds and successfully scrub Google Maps street views just to hide their illegal construction and evictions.
Section 4. Tightening the RICO net. So the crucial point is, how do you actually fight back? How do you fight against a system that literally controls paper reality? Well, this timeline shows exactly how the whistleblowing escalated over the years, which proves that the recursion loop inevitably collapses right back on the perpetrators. It all started back in 2017 with the Glazer fraud lawsuit, which was the first to really blow the whistle on these shell entities. By 2018, the syndicate was sweating, making secret settlements just to keep things quiet. But then, in 2021, boom, an anonymous source leaked a massive trove of documents to archive.org, exposing the entire web. The heat was officially on, and the RICO net, that's the racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations net, finally began to tighten.
And this brilliantly illustrates our final, absolutely crucial concept. A rhizome can only be defeated by another rhizome. The syndicate's absolute greatest weapon was isolating people. Think about what was missed or what was lost simply by victims not reporting it. That silence, that's what gave the perpetrators all their power. But when victims finally stop fighting individually and reach out for each other, the web closes right back in on the perpetrators. With just even one other victim stepping forward to connect the dots, the RICO net retightens around the criminal organization.
Which leaves us with a totally profound challenge for anyone caught in a system like this. If the paperwork dictating your reality is just a weaponized performance designed to isolate and extract from you, what are you going to do? Will you stay isolated in their simulacrum? Or will you connect your stories, build a network of truth, and light the match? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible true crime philosophy with us in this explainer. Keep questioning the paperwork, you guys, and never, ever fight alone.